Hello, everybody. Hi. Welcome to an incredible session. My name is Clara, the co founder and chief strategy officer of Liz Perfectly. But most importantly, I'm a reseller just like yourself. My handle across all marketplaces is The Clothing Vault. You can find me on eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, website, you name it. But today, I am joined by Trish Glenn, our Director of Educations and Events. Welcome, Trish.
Hey, Miss Clara, how are you today?
Excited about this topic. What can I
Me
say?
too. Me
Very,
too.
very, very excited. I think that this is one of my favorites, Trish.
Is it?
Uh, Yep, yep. Sometimes people ask me all the time, how did you do it, Clara, to come to the US with nothing and become successful, 20 years later? And I always say I embrace mistakes. Oh, you name it. And I have licked my wounds, been on the floor down there, okay? And say, okay, first time, blame on someone's blame. At second time, the responsibility is on me. So I think that today this topic is very, very dear to me because I think it's a taboo in our community,
Agreed.
uh, especially with social media now. Oh, watch me making
Right.
$1 million and my holidays in Aruba, and
Right.
look at my new car. And I think we all get carried away. But I always say it only took me 20 years, okay, to be successful.
Well, and I mean, and I have been very upfront and open about buying a business and failing miserably.
There you go.
I bought a consignment store
Yes,
and I sold on eBay to get myself out of a very bad decision, financially,
right,
emotionally, on my health. It was awful. And I felt
right.
like a failure.
Yep,
And I say that with all humility, I failed. It was a failure. It was not anything other than an unmitigated disaster. And so for
right,
me, reselling gave me a way to get out of that. But if I hadn't had that tremendous failure, who knows what would have happened, right?
right,
Even at that point, I did not think of myself as a successful reseller until I finished all of that mistake, got myself out of that, didn't own Tommy, didn't owe anybody any money, and was able to start moving forward. And even that, for a long time, it was like a part-time income. It really took me a long time to become successful. And
right.
I think that that's one of the things that we both bring to this is it wasn't overnight. It took hard work and it took years. It wasn't like you got off a boat and came to
Nope.
America and was successful. I mean,
Oh,
that's just
heck
not how it works.
no. Heck no. From cashier in a supermarket to here, I would have never guessed that. But I think I also want to acknowledge Amanda is not here, you guys, but you know that I speak with her on daily basis for hours, all right, how to conquer the world. So, but I wanted to say when I met Amanda, and you got to understand, I came from banking back in the day, 20 years ago, 22 actually, okay, in banking to say an e-commerce eBay seller was like you're doing money laundry or you can't hold a job anywhere else, so you're a reseller. And I'll
Right.
never forget when I met Amanda. You know what she told me, Clara? She told me, Clara, I had three failed businesses. She did a photography. She was doing like big in Los Angeles. She was doing, I'm talking about mural photographies. So she purchased a lot of machinery. Then she got a restaurant, okay? Then, oh my God, you name it, Amanda did it. Oh, then she resold RVs. But that's how she got to eBay because
Right.
throughout reselling that equipment, she would do the business. She didn't like the restaurant because it was too time intensive and she didn't like working at nights and holidays, etc. Then she sold out the gastronomic appliances and everything else, and then she got in the studio doing this big printout. So I just want to say the importance, and I'll never forget when I met her. Everybody was like, my friends were like a little judgmental, if you please,
Yep.
Trish.
Yep.
Like, ooh, you fail, and especially in
Right.
Los Angeles, admitting that mistake sometimes is like, oh no, you have to be a, there is a culture in Los Angeles that you gotta brag, if you please. Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember that I met Amanda, and she was so unique, and I was like, wow, she is real. She is embracing mistakes. This woman is gonna get far in life. And then that's how I see it. And I was like, Amanda, how, if one day you need help, okay, I was literally on the banking industry in 2008. That's when they pay me a big severance package. So I told her, hey, if you ever need to travel, she's from Rhode Island, and I'll go, I'll go and do anything you need for your online business. And that's how I started doing shipping. Then I got promoted to answer messages. Obviously, with my legal background, I was like, let me help you to recover that top rated seller. Here, I'm going to appeal everything. Okay. So I think that I want to remind everybody that sometimes we're gonna see, and even myself, okay, I made mistakes sometimes, getting excited with some people that I hire for the team of Least Perfectly. And it's just devastating sometimes when it doesn't go like planned. And that sometimes you can see it as a mistake, or you can see it as a very good learning lesson. So I think that with much further ado, Trish, I just want to know, for example, in your case, what is the one mistake you did that reselling online that you wish to share with our audience, please?
I think for a long time, I
Mm.
equated busyness with getting enough work done. And
Oh,
the
yes,
only
yes.
the only thing that matters, the only thing that matters, there's two things. Is your
Yeah,
shipping, if we're talking eBay, just
right,
let's just
right,
go
right,
straight eBay right now. The only two things that matter is your shipping, make sure you get your shipping out on time and
right,
done correctly, and listing, in my opinion only, 7 days a week. You can
right,
schedule them. I'm not saying you have to work 7 days, but if you are not getting up enough listings to
mm,
make the money that you want to make, you're never going to get there. So you need to know, I was equating busyness as in steaming and making sure my photos were perfect and doing all these things with getting enough done, and I wasn't. And I had to push back on my standards to be able to
okay,
get enough done because my
right,
price point was low, right? Your price point where you guys sold is much higher than mine. I had a volume based business and I needed to get the stuff out to be able to sell enough to be able to make the money that I needed to make. And
right,
it wasn't until I really looked at the numbers and was honest with myself. How many items are you really getting up a day, Trish?
right,
Right? And I needed to get more up. And so I needed to be honest with myself and figure out exactly how much I needed to get up with my own sell through rate, with the things that I was selling, and to make the money that I wanted to make. And that took me about a year and a half to figure out. It really did. It took me a while to figure out that I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, but I wasn't getting it done. Yeah.
it's a common mistake. Yeah, people
Yep.
equate to be busy to, profit and success
Right.
and growth. Maybe, I don't know, maybe was my background coming from here, from nothing, and just being so strategic, because I knew I didn't want to be poor. That was engraved. I came with that idea. If I'm going to come to USA, poverty is not an option. So for me, my challenge was, Trish, the lack of balance. I'm so scared of poverty, having been extremely dirt poor. I'm talking about eating every 2 days. I still remember when I'm scared or insecure or anything like that. I'm like, I remember those days, and immediately and I keep going. It's like fuel. It gets me going. And I'll never forget when Mandy was teaching herself coding. I was working, I kid you not, guys, 18 hours a day. Keep in mind, I have to pay her bills, my bills, and the developers' bills, the assistants that I had, etc. So I was so worried about making money and having contingency funds that I burned myself out. I injured my back which I shouldn't have. I never forget that when I would go sourcing, I did vintage clothing. So in sourcing on the Goodwills, I didn't even, we time ourselves 10 minutes on each. We would go, to hard goods and clothing, 10 minutes and 10 minutes. We would divide with Amanda. And I remember putting the stuff on top of my shoulder and walking, on this posture and being extremely sore at night. And I should have. That's the one thing that you can't buy back. Okay, I can't undo the damage that I did on my back. So to those of you resellers, I highly request you to invest on the right tools that are going to save you time. Whether you fall in the maybe on the challenge that Trish has of equating back in the day, being busy with being productive. Okay, I kid you not. Like Trish says every morning on Mastermind, on listing parties, she says, is that something that is going to save you time? It's going to make you more effective. So those were that was yes. Thank you. There it is, Desiree. I have that fear, like Clara, growing up poor will make you go harder. That's right. That's right. And sometimes I just gotta stop and remind myself, even though I'm here in Argentina, okay, literally sometimes I still have like a little flashback of the poverty. So for me, I highly recommend you make sure that you have 8 hours of sleep, mandatory. All right. And then if you can't make it, I always say 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of you time, and 8 hours of work. If you're gonna be doing more hours, okay, make sure that the less you time that you're gonna have, okay. Make sure that you have a strategy, because I didn't burn out, but my body, okay, took that hit. And I'm still, now I'm medicated. There is no cure for deformative arthritis. So for me, it's just something that I highly recommend you balance, strive for balance. And how you're going to do that? By setting up your processes. Set up your processes for everything. I want everybody to go and write down, set up a schedule. All right. Go ahead. I don't care if you do Outlook, Google Calendar,
Yeah.
any calendar. Go get a calendar, please, and make sure that you plan next week. Okay. Make commitments. Don't be so stern with yourself, but do, like, I don't know, 10 listings a day. Do sales goals. Okay. 5 packets, I don't know, 5 sales a day. Just plan your agenda, okay, with shipping, with sourcing, with anything, with listing. So strategize that, and then make the errors, reiterate, and make it better the following week. That's it. That's my secret of success.
Well, and I also think with that comes the idea that do not expect instant success, right? These things compound on each other. So if you're doing 10 listings now and you get to 15 in another 3 weeks, and then maybe you'll get to 20 someday, or whatever it is you need to do with your ASP. But just remember that these things take a little while, they compound on each other, and you'll become more and more successful. Hey, Pam, you'll become more and more successful with the more you do. And so I think some of us expect if I do this for a week, I'm going to have these things I see other people have. And it just doesn't work that way. It takes longer than that. Yeah, Kelly, that's Kelly. I agree. Kelly and Valerie are both basically working 2 full-time jobs.
Right.
And that is hard. That's a hard place to be. But I think they're both doing it for a reason. They're
Right.
both doing it to get themselves to the next level. And so sometimes you just have to be a little kind to yourself and figure out, I'm making sacrifices now so that
Right.
later on I can be in a better place.
The strategy here, Kim and Valerie and everybody else, okay, that you're having maybe a full-time, part-time, and reselling, the strategy, know this: you gotta hustle. Like, if you're gonna hustle like 18 hours a day, like I did, make sure you do not exceed 1 year. All right. Make sure I'm gonna give you right now the key. Every time that I move forward in my career, literally, I started in USA from cashier. From cashier, I became a loan processor. From loan processor, I became an account executive and loan officer. So what did I do? I hustle and I time myself. In that case with banking, my hustle would be like 18 hours of work. Literally, I remember literally working 12 hours, hours. Driving is a lot in California, which takes a long time, but do not exceed 1 year. In my case, Kelly and Valerie and everybody else that you might be having this, try. In my case, I did it for 2 years, and I cannot even explain you. By the end, you guys know when Liz Perfectly went viral after eBay opened 2019. I was sleeping 3 hours, 4 hours max, because I was so deep in debt, and I had no idea if Liz Perfectly would take off. So my desperation was to go as fast as I could to keep making money and pay the bills. So I think that that's a key when it comes to growth. Just know that you have hassle, but within limits, and just know that that hassle will take a little time on your body to, go back to, a state that you're not in constant stress or exerting yourself.
So let me ask you a question. Let's talk about mistakes that
Yeah.
we both did in sourcing. I
Oh,
can tell you right now, my
oh,
biggest mistake at the beginning was um, I would wait. My problem was opposite of most people's. I never really loved to source. I came from somewhere else, so I didn't come into this through sourcing like a lot of people did. So my problem wasn't that I had a death pile like a lot of people. My problem was I'd wait too long and I would be on fumes before I would go get more stock. So I had to become very disciplined about keeping a certain amount of stock, back stock. I had
right.
to be disciplined about having a death pile because I hated the sourcing. So for me, I know. So for me, it always was like secondary, the sourcing. So what about for you? What was your biggest mistake with sourcing?
With sourcing was not investing more, even though I had the data and the knowledge. I was so scared of shipping something expensive, and the fact that I could, if my average purchase price when I bundle everything, I was at $7. Okay, and my average sold price was between 150, and my peak time was $200. So I think my mistake was on not trusting the data that I knew, and letting my fear say, no, don't invest on this, because if you something goes wrong, you're gonna lose a lot of money. And said and done, I opened my own website. Was like, ha, eBay, here you go with your fees. Ha ha, I have my own website. I did 2 sales of $7,000 to Malaysia, and there goes, lost $7,000 of inventory. And I learned, okay, apparently I need, that shouldn't be a problem. That was my first big mistake, and I'll never forget. Obviously, those $7,000 on items was net cost to me approximately 300, $400. But at that time, that was my car payment, Trish.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. We get nervous about certain
Mhm.
things. My, you know, it's funny. My husband grew up very poor,
Right.
and he is very funny about, he always has food on him. He has a backpack everywhere he goes, and he always has food in that backpack.
Yeah.
And there's food in the drawer in our bedroom, his drawer where your nightstand drawer. There's
Hmm.
food in there. And so his reaction to his childhood is that's one of the things that he does, right? He kind of like hoards the food. He's
Right.
afraid of food insecurity.
Right. Right.
For
Right.
me, for me, I had a very good childhood. I had upper middle class parents. Money was never really a big issue. And so my problem is I will risk money sometimes that I shouldn't. So I will sometimes, I sometimes look without leaping, look without thinking. I leap without thinking. I said that wrong. So my problem is I needed to start looking at the data. I
Right.
really needed what you were doing on your own. I wasn't. I really needed to look at the data. I needed to dig into it and make informed decisions rather than just saying, oh, this is cute. Someone's
No.
going to want this.
Yep.
Bad.
Nope. And
Bad.
back in the day, we didn't have smartphones. So Amanda would call me and she would be like, "What is this vicuna?" And I was like, "Get it."
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
would be by phone call. So, yes, Kelly, checking the sell through rate of on just instead of just profit margin, it's key, key, key. I always say I'm a reseller, not a collector. So, knowing
Right.
the turnaround so I can forecast my profits and my growth for next year. What am I going to do next year differently in order to increase, okay, my sell through rate, my profits, my average sold price, my average cost of acquisition per item. Those were numbers that were key. Me, obviously, being a lawyer, coming from banking, I'm all data driven. So for me, was like, even though it's odd, Trish, having that data, and I still was like not trusting the data just because I was scared of failing with
Right.
that loss. And look what happened to me. So, like I said, errors and loss are inevitable. The question is, what are you going to get out of it?
Right. And I needed to take a few lickings to be able to say, all right, I got to stop losing money and I need to start looking at the data. And for me, looking at the numbers has always put me in the right place, right?
Right,
It's an expensive, Tommy's right. It's an expensive lesson to learn, but I learned it. And now everything is based off the data. And one of the things, that's why I say in mastermind all the time, you need to know your numbers. You need to know what your average sell through rate is. You need to know what your average sale price is. You need to know these because if you want to get to that six-figure mark, whatever
right,
mark you're trying to reach, most people say, I want to be at six figures when they first start this.
right,
If you want to be at that six-figure mark and you are not posting enough to ever get there,
right.
right? If you're not putting up enough listings to get there, you're never going to get there.
Yep.
And so you need to look at the data.
Right? And are you shopping more than you're listing?
Right.
That's common mistake that I see all around in our community. So just
Absolutely.
ask yourself, am I shopping more than listing? Because I am all about, we always joke around with my resellers, okay, when I would buy the items from, and they would always tell me, let's save in vintage, because only goes up in value, so we
Right.
would always talk about that. But definitely is something that I think that we could do better, all right, by leaving the emotions aside, all right, and just be very, very calculated with profits and very disciplined. It takes a lot, but I
It
think
does.
that it takes a lot to resist because it's cute. Oh, I sold it in the past. I remember the brand's Jams World that is, that in the past was like literally $200
Right.
per
And
shirt.
now
It's nothing because they start to be made in China. Before it was only made in Hawaii, I think, or something like that. So, it's like those things that sometimes we have to stop buying because the data is not there, because the
right.
profit margin that you're looking for is not there, or sometimes holding to inventory that you don't want to let go because you're like, no, this cost me so much, and I'm
Right.
going to find that buyer 3 years later. Still, not even my mom will buy it from me.
It also, you are completely right about that. There are a large segment of people who say, this is what I paid for it. And I always say every time, it's only worth what somebody's going to pay for it. It's only worth what somebody's going to buy it for. It does not matter what we have into it.
No.
So if I have $100 into something and it's only worth $100, then that's it. I've
Yep.
made no money. If I bought something for $100 and it's worth 50,
Right.
get your money back out, sell it and get your money out, take the loss and keep moving forward and don't make a bad buy again. But when
Right.
you hold on to this stuff, you compound it
Yep.
usually.
Yep. Absolutely, absolutely. But what do you think now that we talk about sourcing? Let's go about pricing and financial mistakes. My expertise, all right. We touch a little on that one. Tommy said that was an expensive mistake, but you know what, Tommy, that mistake was great for me to get out of that negative mindset that I have. eBay is charging me too many fees. eBay is charging me. I was like a broken record and I didn't realize. Was I successful then growing my website? Yes. Did I learn it? I don't think I would have grown to be, because that was when we started to sell international. By when I stopped reselling, Trish, 60% of my sales were international across all channels. So for me, that $7,000, which actually was like a $400 mistake, if we talk about the sourcing, that's not compounding my time and the
Right.
listing, blah, blah,
Right.
blah.
Yep.
But I think that that was an incredible mistake that not only gave me a strategy to go worldwide. And back in the day, many resellers were not selling international, especially in vintage was exploding international. Japan, Australia, Germany, those are sure markets I will always crave Americana vintage.
Well, and I think, the thing about pricing
Yeah,
is some of us, I think we all need to decide on a pricing strategy and stick with it for a little while and see if you can make it work for your business. I
right.
think some of us are unwilling to change it up. Some of us don't want to take offers. Some of us don't want to send offers. Some of us don't want to run sales. You can try to make anything work for your business.
Right,
But once it doesn't work, be willing to look at the other things that are available.
right.
Look at sending offers. Look at running sales. Look at changing your prices. Maybe you need to drop, I am a price high and then
Mm-hmm.
have a really big sale kind of girl because it works for my everyday normal Old Navy, Walmart kind of stuff that I sell, right? I'm not selling high end stuff. No one is coming to me and thinking, oh, that's a great deal on, Louis Vuitton, right? No one's
Right,
going to
right,
ever
right, right.
say that about
Yeah,
my stuff. So know what your audience is. Know
right.
what your kind of customer is looking for and market appropriately. And don't be stuck in one way. You can get yourself into a position where you don't want to change and then you're going to lose market share and you don't want that to happen.
Right. Right. No, absolutely. Hey, look at these comments. Gina, hi, Gina. Do me a favor. Pricing, she says, is the hardest part for me. Would you go a little deeper with me right now? Just quickly. Why is it hard? Because we have Google Lens, we have eBay, okay, pricing research tool, which is the key, okay, to get a great price. I think that the biggest mistake I see, Trish, on our community when setting prices is that they go and see past comparables. And I'm like, no, no, you
It
gotta make
only
it.
matters about
Yeah.
solds only matter.
No, yeah. So make sure that you're doing an equation between what is currently available and what sellers are asking for and what sold for. And why do I love eBay? Because it's simply is the biggest marketplace. There is no other one. I'll never forget I was in Germany and I'm in Germany. I was like, eBay, how you talk about, and I was like, wow,
Yeah. I
so
just would like to say that Gina um just bought, I
yeah,
told you this morning.
yep.
Gina, that is Gina. Gina just bought
Congrats, Gina.
25,000 pieces of
That's
vintage
good.
items. And we're going to have a listing party Wednesday, 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. It will be listed up. It will be up today, so everybody know it will be up over the weekend. We're going to do it Wednesday, and it's going to be Gina, myself, and Vicky, and we are going to talk about what she bought, why, and then how to go through it and what we think. But I just want to, what Gina did, she bought 25,000 pieces for $1,000. There is no
Wow.
way on God's green earth that wasn't a good deal in any way. So, Gina did well. She is not in our pricing and financial mistakes. I don't care what happens at this point. It was worth buying. So I just wanted to let everybody know we're going to do that on Wednesday on
Right.
listing party.
So in the meantime, Gina was going, she did what I asked her. Thank
Yep,
you,
great.
Gina, for sharing. She says, I always second guess myself. I don't want to price too high, even with looking up the comps. And I'll tell you one thing, Gina, that I hope this and everybody helps you. Coming from nothing, doing banking, helping people with the biggest investments. I was managing the mortgage division. So imagine this is the biggest investment that Americans do in their life. So one thing I can tell you, and having to deal with appraisals, with title officers, with contractors, paying off sometimes, liens and you name it. Okay. I have to quote rates, payments every day. The one thing I can tell you, Gina, and everybody, if you do quality listings, and what am I saying when I say quality listings? When you're providing, okay, data that is accurately giving the right information to the audience, to the buyer, never, I will pay the pricing higher because your listing is better, and I will do it happily. All right. So that's the one thing that I never felt bad for pricing too high. Why? Because worst case scenario, someone tells me, you know how it is in eBay, you're crazy, nobody will ever pay you that money. And I'm like, okay, perfect. I'll message you back in 3 months if I don't find I would be like, I message you back in 3 months if I can't sell it. So I think, or then you can create, okay, perfect. So Gina, you think that I priced it too high and I'm insane with my prices, and shame on me for being a scammer and buying from Goodwill and repricing. You should, when they want you to price it like Walmart or Goodwill, right? And you're like, I'm not a thrifting company, right? I'm a reseller. I'm trying to pay my bills as well. So I think that pricing too high was never a concern, Gina, just because the not only Americans, the rest of the world, I can tell you, all you have to do is like, Clara, is price too high? All right, let's say that I have it 6 months there and I have 20 watchers, okay, a lot of impressions, and it's time. You know what, Gina, you're right. Okay, would it be okay? Would you accept an offer when I'm sending you 20% off, 30%? And you could be like, no, you're still crazy. Well, perfect. What about a 30? What would make it? And then sometimes from there you can learn the pricing negotiation. So my take on that is, guys, always price higher than lower. You can always reduce your price. You can always make a buyer feel special because you know what, Trish, I'm gonna you're right, it's too high. I'll drop the price for you, and they feel special. But when you're pricing too low, or we smell scam, okay, or we think it's broken, or we think that there is a problem, there is going to be a problem with shipping or anything like that. I'm just giving you the data, okay, that I analyzed this thoroughly, and this applies across all categories. If you're not doing like Trish, okay, Trish was doing volume, okay, guys, I'm talking about for those resellers like myself that we try to max out. This strategy applies to those resellers that want to max out the price per item. That was the name of my game. Okay, how high I could go with the average sold price.
And I
But
also
for
think that it
Chris,
matters what you
was
sell, right? Like you
yeah,
were in a specialty item.
yep,
It was a small niche. I'm selling everyday stuff. I'm
right,
selling stuff. So for me, pricing high to be able to run a sale, right? And then I also do promoted, but I have that all into my equation. So some of this based on what you sell, I think. You
yeah,
know, I just think, and it also depends on sell through rate. I mean, if I
yeah,
have something that has a sell through rate of 100%, when I put it up there, if it's within the realm of possibilities, somebody's just going to buy it.
yep,
You don't have to worry about, if it's priced too high or too low. It could be basically wherever, and somebody's going to make you an offer if it's at 100% sell through rate.
that's right,
Um,
that's
you can
right,
always go lower later on. Exactly. I mean, I kind of do it exactly the way Samantha does it.
yep,
That just works for the kind of business that I have. So, I mean, I just think it depends on what business you have, but figuring out a model and sticking with it for 3 to 6 months and see if it works for you. And then you can go back and change it, Gina, if it didn't work for you.
yep.
Um, so, what do you think are common growth killers, Clara? Like, what things do you think, like, do you know, like, that? Do you think there's anything that people do? I mean, for me,
Uh-huh.
I think it's what I said at the beginning. I think a common growth killer is people who are doing busy work and not
Oh,
listening enough. Yeah.
yeah, I think that you touch a very good. I agree with you. People equate to be busy with growth and success. For me, is a constant. I'm constantly. Maybe because I'm alone, okay, in the U.S. All right, and there is, if I crash, okay, there is the floor, okay. So for me, I have to be very strategic. So when I fail, all right, and it's not if, it's when. Guys, it's not if, it's when you fail, all right? You have a plan on it. I have A, B, C, and contingencies for everything. So I think that measuring your time, like you said, and measuring data. And when I say data, it's very simple. Go to eBay. If you're not selling on eBay, you should be, because it's the biggest audience, the biggest marketplace, has all the categories. Look what's happening right now on Facebook group. I have to do a post on people about Depop because they're getting suspended for listing silverware. I'm talking about spreading knife, okay,
Yeah.
and how
Not
you're
a
going
night.
to kill
Yeah.
someone with a silverware, and people got suspended. So I think that seeing what is out there, is just use the data. I don't see people enough using the data that eBay provides. And hey, I'm not trying to impose. If you want me, I can say unleashed perfectly. I do see people using the data. We have improved so much our data analytics dashboard and filters, and we added so many things that people wanted, like more filters in order to be able to counter when you are shipping, so you know exactly how many, etc. So I think that that's important. But the common problems that I see is that people are not organized, Trish. They don't set up a process. Me coming from banking, I was so process oriented that when I met Amanda, I was like, oh, she was like, do this, typical resellers, do this and da 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 da. And me, I'm such a geek and nerd. I'm nerd, okay? I'll meet a hi, I'm Clara, I'm nerd, okay? So I love taking notes. Back in the day, I would take notes, I could still type fast. And I remember taking and doing processes for everything. And then I would have my schedule, I would program, I would make I always call commitments. I'm very careful how I say things. So when, not if, when you don't reach those goals, okay, you can recommit again and readjust, and then you can reach those goals. So
So,
commitments of how many you're going to list, how many you want to sell. Dream big. It's free. It's free, guys.
well, and I also think one other thing that I think holds people back, maybe physically, is not having their inventory system or just their system in general about how you bring your goods in, how you separate them, where they go, and
Right.
then where the inventory is afterwards. I cannot tell you at the beginning. I remember one day Thayer and I looked for 4 hours for something that I needed to mail out that day. 4 hours. And
Right.
after that, I said to him, I'm having an individual SKU system. Like, because before that, I didn't. And
Right.
now I have an individual SKU system with a backup system. So I'm not losing anything. I mean, does something get
Exactly.
misplaced every once in a while? Of course. But
Yeah.
I can always find it. I'm never in that position where I mean, after the 4 hours, I went online and found something that I found the same item and bought it at full price and sent it to this person because I didn't want to, I was a new reseller and I couldn't take the hit.
Right.
And so making sure the
Right.
things that can trip you up, and inventory can trip you up huge.
Oof, oof. Inventory, that was the one thing that I have to give it to Amanda. The woman can make mistakes. She wasn't very good at customer service, okay? But inventory and shipping, that was something that I'll never forget. I could find any items. That List Perfectly has an inventory system that we create from you, and that came from us. The alphanumeric system that you can customize to alpha or numeric or whatever, bins or shelf or hangers or closet, you name it. Okay. But I think that you're right, spot on, not having, oh, I don't need to get started now with an inventory
Right,
system because I'm
right,
still small. I only
right.
have
I
a
only have
thousand.
5. Exactly. Oh,
I'm like, no, don't do this to yourself, please. Okay.
exactly, because it only takes one item. And then where people will say, "Oh, I know where everything is." You
Right.
don't. And
No.
in mastermind, if you show up to mastermind, I say all the time, what happens if you get hit by a bus? And what I
Mm-hmm.
mean by that is it needs to be explainable to somebody else. Somebody else needs to be come in and be able to pull your inventory. Because
Exactly.
if you were hit by a bus, the one thing that will ruin your eBay account, it will not be that you don't list. It will not be that you don't do certain things. The only thing that will ruin your eBay account is if you don't get the items that sold out and shipped. That is
That's
the
right.
fastest way to lose an eBay account.
That's right.
And you can if you're not, I mean, if there was something, if you got hit by a bus and nobody could do it for you. But in my system, Clara could fly to my house in Massachusetts,
Mm-hmm.
look
I
at my
did.
little look at my little key and
I
figure out
tested it. Yep.
find anything that was in my house.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Another thing, you know what I also see across groups of resellers. Trish sent me a message offering me $10 for my I don't know for my $80 I don't know remote. All right, and and I responded, "You wish," and I'm like, no, treat every message with the utmost respect, okay? Even if they're telling you you're nuts. Sometimes I have buyers that they call me very not allowed words, and I have to report them and tell, hey, can you take that word back, okay? I'll negotiate with you, but I'm not going to allow it to escalate to that level. In practice with these people, treat every message, okay, like a potential buyer, because even if they are there to try to pinch and try to get an item for low price, you can still, okay, build and learn something with these not even, I would say prospect, not even a buyer, because
And
sometimes
how
they're
many times
wasting your time.
exactly, but how many times did somebody offer you 50% of what you wanted? You said, "I'm sorry, that is too low, blah blah blah." And then they buy it at full price.
I
Or they
know.
tell you
Isn't that insane? Isn't that insane? I'm
but
like,
I equate it to people who want a bargain. I equate it to being at a yard sale and saying, "Hey, will you take $5 for this?" Sometimes they'll say, "Thanks, Gina. Thank you so much. I appreciate it." Sometimes they say, "Yes, I'll take the 5." No, I'm sorry, it's $50, right? So it really depends on where they are. And sometimes I don't know why we get so insulted by it. I agree with you, Clara. It's no reason to
no,
be insulted.
there is no reason to feel that Samantha says, schedule your day out. We love the freedom of this life, but sometimes it can be a hindrance. Have boundaries with friends and family to respect your schedule. That is, oh, preach it, preach it, preach it, because I had to educate my family, even sometimes, and sometimes to support you. I'll never forget doing that drive from Los Angeles to Phoenix 3 times a month, okay, to go. And I could come back like literally with every time I would come back with like at least 6,000 listings. 3 times a month, we were selling like I cannot even tell you, like 40 items a day, and my average sold price was $200 at that time. So I had friends. I literally had to move out. I kid you. I'm going to tell you something that you guys never heard. We move out. Some people, many ask me, hey, Clara, you left Los Angeles. I live by the beach on Long Beach. And then you went to hot Phoenix. Why? Well, cheaper taxes. But in Los Angeles, there was always a party, always so much distraction. My friends could swing by my house because they know that I work from home. So they would swing by and be like, hey, let's do something. And they're like, all of a sudden they decided, that we're all meeting because I was by the beach and close to downtown. And I think that having boundaries with friends and family, and also asking for the support. I'll never forget, I called my brother. I was driving and I was like, Beto, help me to stay up because I gotta make it, and I don't want to take a nap, all right, let's say in Palm Springs, okay, which is not even halfway to Phoenix.
No.
And I
Yeah.
think that that was crucial when I asked my brother, and he was like, well, I'm gonna let you go, you're driving. And I was like, no, 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 I'm not using the hands, but just talk to me about anything. So give me support. This is what I need from you. I'll never forget. He's like, okay, call me anytime. And that changed it, Trish. That made those 5 hours and a half of driving from LA to Phoenix loaded with so many items. I barely fit, okay, to drive because my car, my Toyota RAV4, was loaded with that, okay.
But you're completely right. I do think I put this up so I could yell at Laura. Laura, go list on eBay. Do it right now. But but what you just said, I think it's really true. And I was very lucky. My father would call
Yeah,
me every day and say to me, "What? How many did we sell today? And did you get your shipping out?" And he said that to me every. He would call me every day after 12 o'clock, and he would say to me, "How many did we sell today?" Which he meant the day before. And did you get your shipping out before noon? And my father, this job allowed me to be spend a lot of time with my dad when he was dying, and a lot of time with Diana also when she was. That was more you than my reselling business, but I do appreciate it. I got to spend a lot of time with the two people who were very close to me in my life who were passing away, and but a lot of it had to do with how much discipline I could have with getting so much work done before I would leave and do something else.
right.
And I think you're right. It is a thing between you setting up boundaries, but also boundaries with yourself. I am not going to leave this house. And I mean, and I did not leave my house until I had 50 up a day at the end. That was what I needed to be where I needed to be. And so, did that mean some days I used a bank? I always used a bank system. And so, if there's anybody here who doesn't know what that means, that just means listings that you've put like in a savings bank, right? And
Mhm.
so I always had between 300 and 600 items in a bank that I could, when on those days I needed to go to the doctor with my dad or I needed to do something else, I had a backup plan.
Right.
And so being able to make sure that you have the right boundaries, that people understand this is a real job. Just because
Yeah.
I'm home does not mean it's not a real job. And,
Yeah.
you know, and if I left the house and went to Walmart or went to Home Depot, you
Right.
people wouldn't show up in my aisle and say, "Hey, do you want to go to lunch?" Right?
Yes.
So stay away from my aisle at Home Depot. Leave me in my aisle alone. I got work to do. But still being able to be flexible enough that does us. That's why we do this. A lot of us, we do this so we can do the other things we want to do in life.
Right. Right. No, absolutely.
Speaking
Um,
of other things we want to do in life, I think Miss Clara needs to get going because she's going to do something else in life.
oh, yes, but I still have a couple of minutes
Okay.
just to wrap it up, okay?
Okay.
I think that the one thing I want to close, and then we can open to questions and answers. And I always pat it a little, okay? But
Okay.
one of the things that I think is that shows the other growth killer is resellers when they tell me, "Oh, I can do that manually." Yeah, certainly you can do it manually, okay? Like cross listing, I'll never forget when we launched, okay, and I got declined by so many investors because they're like, "Oh no, you can cut and paste and do it manually." Can you do it? Yes. But is it saving you time? No. Okay. Are you going to get carpal tunnel? Yeah, for sure. All right. And I think that that's something, also applies to listing assistant. I'm like, "Oh no, I'll just go to ChatGPT and do cut and paste." And I'm like, all right, can you do it? And we're still in that. Can you do it? Certainly. But should you do it? No, because it's not being effective in order to save you time. Your time is money. So make sure that you measure. My biggest take, guys, is I want you to every day kind of do like a reseller diary. All right, you're gonna go and put, okay, what you did throughout the day, and this is gonna be just some people do it, okay, on digital. Some people, I'm more like in black and white when I'm doing something that I want to do introspection. So go and see how much time you're spending on different tasks and see what you can do better, one thing at a day, one thing at a time, in order to improve it. That's my final take, Trish.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think really just having some self introspection and
Absolutely.
really being honest with yourself. How many listings am I really doing? How much how much money am I really making? Really look at the numbers. Really know where you stand, because then you can make informed decisions and you can figure out, am I going in the right direction or am I not? And listen, there is no shame in changing direction, right? There's no shame in saying, this is not serving my business. This is not working for me. I am going to pivot. And the people who can pivot are the people who are successful because
That's
they
right.
look at
There
the
you go.
data and they can pivot.
That's absolutely. If you're still doing the same things you were doing last year, just know you're going to have the same income or a little less. That's a fact, because e-commerce is too dynamic for you to get stuck on doing things in a certain way. And another thing that I see, okay, especially with our segment of resellers, that we're not drop shippers, okay, is that sometimes people want full automation. Set it and forget about it. This is not, because we're small sellers, okay, even if you have 10,000 listings like Crystal Mouse, okay, all right, but we're
There's more
still,
than that now, I think.
yeah, but
Yeah.
minimum, right? But still, we're not that, we are small resellers that we need to do growth in our reselling journey. So when you set it and forget it, you're not growing. If anything, you're repeating your past mistakes, because you are not evolving, you're not using a tool that is allowing you to process what's working, what's not working. So sometimes those set it and forget it not only are non-compliant. Look what happened in Poshmark, okay, and careful, buckle up, because if you thought that the excessive listing policy on Poshmark is tough, wait to see what eBay is going to do. Just saying. So what we need to do is adapt, and that's key as a reseller. And I was listening to you that there is no shame in change. Actually, there should be shame when you don't change.
Yeah. And I just want to say, Desiree said, yes, most of us need to work with our business and not for it. And I think that that is really a good statement, right? We're the bosses, we're the ones who make the decisions. We need to be looking at this from an overview, not just like, oh, what I'm doing for my work. Like, you got to make sure the business is actually viable and what you're doing is an actual, is really can get you where you want to go. Because if you're running 200 miles an hour, but you're never going to get to financially where you are, where you want to be, then stop running that hard and figure out how to get yourself financially where you want to be, and then start running again. A lot of us are just running and doing busy work, and we're not getting enough. We're not moving the needle enough, for lack of a better word.
That's right. That's right. All right. We're wrapping this up. Our peer says, what are the features that List Perfectly offers? From we create listings to you. Okay. Not only we create listings from 1 to 6 images. Okay. We're gonna help you to template it or customize, just like eBay has it. We're gonna offer you a listing dashboard, a sales and analytics dashboard, so you can evaluate where the right growth is for you. Not only that, we're going to auto delist for you. We're going to offer you unlimited platforms for you to cross list to. We're going to even give you word alerts. For example, if you're selling silverware on Depop, okay, we're going to give you an alert saying not allowed on Depop, all right? So things like that, okay, that we can do. So happy to answer your questions further, but I have to wrap this up now. And I want to say thank you, everybody, for watching us. Wow, big audience today, Trish. Very good success. And that we invite you to join us in Listing Party. Our peers, okay, don't forget that you can sign for LP 100 free listings, or 5 days. And in those 5 days or 100 free listings, you can access Listing Party. You can even do it now, sign up real quick, and you can join us on Listing Party, and we can talk more about List Perfectly, growth, what tools we have, and more. Thank you so much, Trish, for a great, and it's always fun to chat with you, and especially this topic. Thank you, everybody. Have an amazing weekend, many sales, and hustle, hustle. You got this. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, guys. See you in
Bye.
listing party.